I canceled my wedding the day before, after discovering what my fiancé was doing to my daughter behind my back. The day before my wedding, my little daughter handed me a drawing that shattered everything I thought I knew about the woman I was about to marry. My fiancé was supposed to give my child the love she never had. Instead, she took something away from her that I'll never forgive. It was supposed to be the best day of my life. Everything had been leading up to this. Months of planning, choosing the perfect venue, writing vows, rehearsing how I'd stand at the altar without my knees giving out. Tomorrow, I was supposed to marry Sarah. We were finally going to be a family, a real family. I couldn't stop smiling. The thought of waking up next to Sarah every morning, of hearing laughter fill our home, and of seeing Emma finally have the mother figure she'd always deserved, it filled me with so much joy, I thought I'd burst. My name is Anthony, I'm 35, and I've been a single dad for as long as I can remember. My daughter Emma, she's 6 now. Smart, sweet, full of life, my whole world. From the moment she came into my arms, I knew I had to give her everything. And I tried. God knows I tried. Emma's biological mother, her name barely crosses my lips. It's not bitterness anymore. It's more like a wound that healed with a scar too deep to forget. She left when Emma was just a baby, still in diapers. One day, she simply decided she was done, said I wasn't good enough for her. Maybe I wasn't, but I had to be good enough for Emma. And that question, the one that has haunted me for years. Daddy, why did Mommy go away? Doesn't she love me? No matter how many times she asked, I could never give her the kind of answer she deserved. How do you explain abandonment to a child? How do you make them understand that love sometimes isn't enough for some people? I told her stories. I distracted her. I held her close. But the truth always sat between us, silent and heavy. For a long time, I was terrified of dating again. I told myself I didn't have time, that Emma was enough. But deep down, I was afraid. What if I brought someone into our lives who didn't see her as part of the package? Or worse, what if they pretended to care only to turn cold the moment she needed them most? So I kept things simple. Work, home, and Emma. That was my life. Until Sarah came along. From the start, she was different. She didn't just show interest in me, she showed genuine care for Emma. Little things stood out. She remembered what kind of juice Emma liked, brought her books instead of just toys, sat down and colored with her during long afternoons. She never seemed impatient or uncomfortable. She made space for her. That meant everything. 2 years of dating passed before I popped the question. I'd thought about it for months. I planned everything out. A sunset beach proposal, soft music, playing. Emma nearby gathering seashells in her little sun hat. I got down on one knee, heart pounding in my chest, and asked Sarah to marry me. She cried, said yes. Emma laughed and clapped, unaware of the full weight of what it all meant, but happy because I was happy. I thought we had it all figured out. I really believed we were going to be okay. But then came the day before the wedding. At first, I didn't think much of it. Emma had been quiet for a couple of days. Not sick, just quiet. And that wasn't like her. Normally, she was full of energy, bouncing around the living room in her mismatched socks, talking a mile a minute, asking questions about everything. But lately, she seemed tired, distant, almost like she was lost in thought but didn't have the words to say what was on her mind. I tried brushing it off. Maybe it was just nerves. Big changes were coming, and even kids can feel that shift in the air. But something deep inside me whispered that this wasn't just pre-wedding jitters. She wouldn't eat her favorite breakfast that morning. She pushed the pancakes around her plate with her fork and just stared out the window. Her eyes didn't sparkle the way they usually did. That light, the one that made even the darkest days feel bright, it had dimmed. I asked her if she was okay. She nodded, said she was fine. But her voice was small, too small, like she was trying to disappear. As much as I tried to focus on the final wedding details, confirming the florist, picking up the suits, rehearsing the walk, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The joy I'd felt just a few days ago had started to fade, and in its place was a growing worry, a quiet fear I couldn't name yet, but it was there. In my heart, I knew this was more than just nerves. Something wasn't right. Emma had always been the type of child who kept things to herself until she was ready to speak. She had a gentle spirit, one that took time to open up when something was bothering her, so I waited. I told myself that maybe this was just one of those quiet spells, a moment that would pass. I didn't want to push her too hard. I figured when she was ready, she'd come to me like she always did, and she did. Later that day, I was sitting in my home office, going over some final details for the wedding. My thoughts were scattered, and honestly, my mind kept drifting to her, my little girl. That worry hadn't left me, no matter how many tasks I tried to bury it under. Then I heard the softest knock on the door. It was so faint, I almost thought I imagined it. "Daddy?" Her voice was so small, so unsure. It tugged at something deep inside me, a place only she could reach. I turned around slowly and gave her a warm smile. "What's up, sweetie?" She stood in the doorway, holding something behind her back. Her eyes were big, sad, and uncertain. She hesitated before stepping forward. "Can I show you something?" she asked. Of course. She reached out and handed me a drawing. I smiled, expecting one of her usual doodles. She loved drawing. Us together? Stick figures holding hands, surrounded by big red hearts, sometimes with flowers and a smiling sun overhead. They were always full of joy. But this one was different. As I looked down at the paper, my smile faded. My stomach twisted into a tight knot. The drawing showed me in a suit standing next to Sarah in a white wedding dress, and between us stood a little girl. But her face was crossed out, completely erased, marked over with a big, harsh red X. I felt something inside me shatter. I looked up at Emma. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her little hands nervously played with the hem of her shirt. Her lips were pressed together tightly. "Emma," I asked gently, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's this? Why'd you cross out the little girl?" She still didn't look at me. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "That's me, Daddy." I froze. Then she added even softer. "Sarah said, there won't be room for me anymore. When you get married and have new kids, I won't be welcome." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I blinked, trying to make sense of what she had just said. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Her eyes began to fill with tears. She wiped them away quickly like she didn't want me to see her cry. "Sarah said I can't stay with you once you get married." I stared at her in disbelief. My heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. What else did she say? Emma's lip trembled. "She said when you and her have babies, I'll have to go live somewhere else, because there won't be enough love for me anymore. She's already looking for someone who wants me." I couldn't breathe. I sat there, frozen, trying to understand what I was hearing. Sarah, this woman I was about to marry, was saying these things to my daughter, the child she had claimed to care for, the little girl who had trusted her. I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around Emma. My hands shook as I held her close, and her small arms clung to me like she was scared I'd slip away. "Oh God, no, sweetie, you're not going anywhere. I promise you." My voice trembled, thick with emotion. I wanted to cry, to scream, to march out of the room and confront Sarah right then and there. But I couldn't let Emma see that. Right now, she needed to feel safe. She needed to believe every word I said. She buried her face in my chest and sobbed. "Daddy, please don't let Sarah take me away. I love you so much. Please, promise me. I'll still be your little girl." My arms tightened around her. I kissed the top of her head and whispered with all the strength I had, "I promise, sweetie. You're not going anywhere. You're my baby, always." In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the wedding, not the plans, not Sarah, just Emma. That night, after I tucked Emma into bed and kissed her goodnight, I sat beside her for a while, watching her sleep. Her little chest rose and fell with each breath. Her tiny hand clutched around her stuffed bunny. Even in sleep, she looked so fragile. The things she had told me earlier still echoed in my head like thunder. My heart ached for her. She had been scared, confused, and heartbroken because of someone I had trusted. I couldn't ignore it. I wouldn't. I stood up and quietly left her room, closing the door behind me. The hallway was silent, but my thoughts were loud. My footsteps felt heavier than usual as I made my way to the living room. I could already hear the faint buzz of a phone. Sarah was sitting on the couch, one leg tucked under the other, scrolling mindlessly through her screen like nothing had happened. Like this was just another normal evening before the big day. But it wasn't normal. Not anymore. My chest tightened as I walked in. I stood for a moment, unsure how to begin, my hands clenched at my sides. Then I took a breath and spoke. "Sarah, we need to talk." She looked up slowly, her eyes meeting mine. Something in my tone must have tipped her off. She put her phone down, her expression changing slightly. "What's wrong?" she asked casually. I didn't dance around it. I couldn't. "Emma told me what you said to her, that once we get married and have our own kids, she wouldn't be welcome anymore, that she'd have to leave." Sarah didn't even look surprised. She didn't gasp or deny it. She just gave a slow sigh, like she was tired of this conversation, before it had even begun. "Anthony, I was thinking about the future. It's only fair that when we have our own children, they come first. Emma's from your past. She deserves something different, somewhere else." Her words hit me like a slap. I blinked, trying to make sense of what she was saying. Are you serious? Emma is my daughter. She's not a mistake or a leftover from some other life. Sarah rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Ants. I get it. She's your kid, but she's not mine. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life fighting for your attention once we have a real family. Real family? The words burned in my ears. You're talking about her like she's a burden, like she's in the way. She's 6 years old, Sarah. 6! And you told her she doesn't belong? She'll adjust, Sarah said with a shrug. Kids are resilient. Once we have our own babies, you'll see. This won't even be a problem. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her face was calm, emotionless, like none of this meant anything. Adjust to what? Being abandoned? Being pushed aside so you can play house with your real family? That's not how this works. Emma is my whole world. I raised her alone. I protected her. And I will keep protecting her. Sarah stood up, crossing her arms over her chest. So what? You're just going to throw away everything we planned over her? I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had once thought I loved. The woman I had believed would become a mother to my child. But in that moment, I realized how wrong I had been. She didn't love Emma. She didn't even care. She saw her as an obstacle, something to get rid of. There's nothing to throw away, I said, my voice low but firm. There is no wedding. It's off! Her eyes widened, her face twisted in disbelief. What? Are you canceling everything? Over that little brat? Enough! I cut her off, my voice rising. Emma is not a problem to be solved. She is not some unwanted toy you can just toss aside. She's my daughter, and she comes first. Always. Sarah took a step back, stunned. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't. Let her. If you can't accept that, I said, looking her straight in the eyes, then we have nothing left to talk about. Take your things and leave. Now. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Her jaw dropped, her face pale, with shock. But I didn't feel sorry, not even a little. Are you serious? You're canceling our wedding because of this? Over a little brat your ex-wife left behind? Those were Sarah's last words to me before I cut her off for good. Stop! Not one more word. Out of my house. Now! I said it calmly, but firmly, without yelling, without drama. I meant every syllable. Something inside me had already shut off. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. The next morning, the first thing I did was start making calls. I contacted the venue, the caterers, the photographer, everyone involved in the wedding plans. Each call made it feel more real. I also called my family and close friends to let them know the wedding was canceled. Their reactions were exactly what you'd expect: shock, confusion, concern. From the outside, everything had looked perfect. A happy couple, a sweet little girl, and a big celebration just around the corner. People asked why. Some even asked if it was too late to fix things. But I didn't owe them the full story. I gave them the truth in simple terms. It wasn't right. That was enough for most. My best friend, though, he wanted to know more. When I told him what had happened, what Sarah had said to Emma, and what she really thought of my daughter, he was quiet for a few seconds. Then he simply said, "Man, you dodged a bullet. You really did." At the time, I wasn't sure how I felt. It was a strange mix of emotions: grief over what could have been, relief that it hadn't gone any further, and a deep, aching sadness for what my daughter had endured. In the days that followed, some people in my family tried to convince me I had overreacted. They said maybe Sarah didn't mean it, that I should have talked it through, that relationships required compromise. But I kept thinking, how do you compromise with someone who looks at your child and sees a problem to get rid of? Sarah showed me who she really was. And once someone shows you their true self, it's up to you to believe them. I knew I had made the right decision. No matter how much time we had spent together, no matter how close we came to saying I do, I couldn't build a life with someone who couldn't love Emma. She would have pushed my daughter to the side, slowly, maybe. Even quietly, but eventually Emma would have felt it. The lack of love, the cold shoulder, the difference. I couldn't let that happen, not to my little girl. Later that day, I sat down with Emma. She had been quiet since the night before, unsure of what to say. Her small fingers fidgeted with the edge of her shirt as she sat beside me, her eyes heavy with worry. "Daddy," she said softly, "are you still getting married to Sarah?" I looked at her for a moment and then pulled her gently into my lap. Her little body leaned against mine, fragile but warm. I wrapped my arms around her. "No, baby," I said with a soft smile. "I'm not." She looked up at me, confused. "Why?" I held her closer. "Because I love you so much and I'd never let anyone hurt you. Ever." That was all she needed to hear. She tucked her head against my chest and let out a small sigh of relief. Emma is still healing. What Sarah did, what she said, it left a mark. There are moments when Emma gets quiet for no reason, moments when I catch her staring off, wondering if one day I'll stop choosing her too. But I'm doing everything I can to make sure she never feels that way again. If staying single forever is what it takes to protect her heart, I'll do it without a second thought. All I want is for my daughter to know, deep in her soul, that she is loved, that she is wanted, and that she will always have a place in my heart and in our home, forever.